There, everyone. We want to take a look at some of the severe weather that could be plaguing the U.S. It's obviously been a big issue with what happened in Mississippi and Georgia, and parts of Alabama here over the last couple days, last Friday and Saturday. And it looks like severe weather is setting up a pretty active setup here over the next, really this week and then into next week based on what models are showing. So want to take a look at not only what we're going to see over the next couple weeks in the long range pattern, but also zero in on the potential for severe weather Thursday and Friday here of this week. So let's jump in and take a look a little bit closer. This is the upper air map here that we can see over the next couple weeks, showing several different troughs and some pretty big systems pushing through the continental United States. Certainly a very active pattern. We can see right now what this is showing is the upper air pattern. Big trough digging in across California and the Southwest, and then producing the chance for significant severe weather on Thursday and Friday of this week. So let's take a closer look in, see what areas might be impacted, as well as, kind of where some of those risk areas might be. So first off, again, want to take a look at the kind of the upper air map here. And kind of what to expect. So when we look here, we move forward in time. Let's get to kind of about the evening on Thursday here. We can see this big trough pushing in. Again, this is kind of looking at the jet stream, that upper air. We can see a lot of flow here, kind of rounding the base of that trough, kind of on the far side here, stretching over the southern plains. Now, Thursday is going to be a rather conditional setup. There's going to be a cap in place across much of North Texas, Oklahoma, and even southern Kansas. So I'm not sure that we'll get storms. It's probably a little bit too early to tell at this point. The trough's a little bit further out here over the southwest. If it was a little bit further over the Texas Panhandle, I think we definitely have a pretty big severe weather day, but Thursday does look like it may be conditional. But as we move forward in time a little bit and we go through Friday here, this is where we really start to see problems that are arising. So this would be kind of Friday night around sunset. We can see some pretty significant flow here, really across Missouri and Illinois. Definitely looks like we could have some pretty significant severe weather across even southern Wisconsin, parts of Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, and Arkansas. Probably damaging winds, that looks very likely here. Probably some hail and even some tornadoes would be expected in a setup like this. We might also see a little bit of what's called a bimodal mode of severe weather. We've got a surface low up here over Iowa and southern Minnesota. So we'd likely see severe weather over here along Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois. And then probably another mode down here, maybe as far south as northeast Texas, southern Arkansas, and then kind of the Missouri boot hill. And again, this would be Friday evening. Looks like some pretty significant severe weather there. Now, when we go a little bit further out and we start looking at even things setting up for next week, we can see that there's another system that starts to dig in here, kind of around that, let's scroll back, kind of around the Monday, Tuesday time frame. And so let's see, probably right about here, we can see this other trough coming in from the southwest. Again, this is looking at kind of Monday overnight into Tuesday morning. So it looks like probably Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe into Thursday of next week could see some severe weather across the southern plains again. So very active pattern with the jet stream really digging down to the south. We also have this flow coming out of the Pacific, kind of from the southwest over the mountains of Mexico. That can often kind of help to present a little bit more of the ingredients necessary for severe weather. You oftentimes will see a little bit of this kind of southwest pattern here, but definitely a very active pattern with the jet stream here. Now, let's take a little bit of a closer look at what to expect over the next couple days and what the evening model runs are showing. And so let's see here. Let me kind of zoom into more of the southern plains region here, and then take a look at kind of what it's setting up for here on, this would be Thursday afternoon. Let me scroll forward to tonight's run here. This is looking at kind of Thursday afternoon about 4 p.m. here. And we can see that big trough, these are those 500 millibar kind of jet stream level winds way above the surface. We can still see that trough is kind of over New Mexico here, so it's not as far over to the east as you would need for severe weather. So we have those upper level winds considerably off to the west here. Then when we look at that lower level jet, we do have a rather significant lower level jet setting up here kind of across North Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. Now, the issue setting up here is while that is conducive for severe weather, when we look at a couple of the other parameters that we always want to look at, we want to look at that surface level moisture. We can see that there is some moisture that's these 60 dew points in blue that is getting across the Red River into southern Oklahoma. But we see that a lot of the instability, another parameter that we always want to look at, that surface-based instability. When we look at that kind of surface-based cape here, we can see that either early afternoon or even by about sunset, that instability lags a little bit further off to the west along the dry line here. Whereas, yes, we have moisture, but a lot of those lower level winds, that 850 millibar low level jet, is kind of more across central Oklahoma, and so it's not really lined up. And I think that's going to be a limiting factor for potential for severe weather here on Thursday. If we take a, kind of around here along I-35, we take a point sounding, what we're going to notice is we've got this red bar here of these increased temperatures above the surface, and so that's that cap where we've got some dry air right here, warmer temperatures, and so that's likely going to inhibit some storm formation. Now, we can see we've got some pretty significant winds, those lower level winds. We've got some curvature and turning. If we were to get a weaker cap, maybe a little bit more of a moist layer here, temperatures maybe are warmer than they're being modeled here at about 64 degrees. If we were able to break that cap, we could see some pretty significant storms with really all hazards being possible. But it does look like that cap's going to be an issue. Even further along the dry line, here we actually get a little bit closer. It's a little bit of a semblance of a cap here, but we've got warmer temperatures out west up to 75 degrees. So that really helps to erode this cap. Really, really good curvature in the lowest levels. So certainly could see a severe weather threat. It's going to be close whether that can happen, whether that cap weakens or not there on Thursday. So I think it's definitely a conditional setup, but if you get a storm, definitely would have all the severe modes possible, damaging winds, hail, and certainly even a tornado threat as well. So when we look a little bit forward and we jump ahead to Friday, let's take a look at that. And let's move forward here. We're going to have to use a little bit of the longer range models here. Let me jump ahead here. And so this is going to get us to kind of Friday night here. Let me look at the upper level winds here. And we can see that upper level trough, let me zoom out a little bit. That's probably going to give us a better idea here for Friday, since we're still a little bit far out. We can see here that, again, looking at the GFS, this is Friday night. Again, we can see that trough digging in. We've got the low pressure over Iowa, Minnesota. We've got those pretty significant fast winds above the surface of the jet stream level over Missouri and Illinois and Arkansas. When we look at that lower level jet that's important for severe weather, we can see pretty strong low level jet across Missouri, Illinois, Iowa, Arkansas into Tennessee and Kentucky. So certainly have the ingredients with that wind shear and certainly the fast winds that we need, not only jet stream level above the surface, but also low level as well. Moisture, not going to be an issue with this system. We can see that this system pulls dew points, those 60-degree dew points, even in the blue color here, into almost central Illinois by Friday evening. We got lots of moisture, not really an issue there. When we look at all of the, kind of some of the severe weather parameters, we look at that instability again. Again, we have some semblance of instability all the way up into kind of Missouri Boot Hill, even a little bit of that kind of pooling or a little bit of that reflection here across kind of Illinois. So not going to be an issue. Again, I don't know if it's going to be a massive tornado outbreak by any means on Friday, but definitely seems like we could have all the ingredients in place for probably a damaging wind threat. Certainly that might be the biggest risk. A little too early to tell at this point, but I think that we're definitely setting up for a very active pattern, potential for some storms in the southern plains on Thursday, then kind of the Midwest and the kind of Arklamis to Arklatex region here on Friday, and then certainly setting up into next week for severe weather potential with some new systems, kind of that Tuesday through Thursday period of next week as well. So definitely stay tuned. It looks like it's going to be an active couple weeks here as we kind of close out March and then go into April. So definitely stay weather aware. Make sure you have your plan in place. I think if last Friday showed us anything, it's that you can't always depend on a siren sounding Sadly, a lot of the people in Rolling Fork, Mississippi, really didn't have any warning. They didn't know things were coming. They didn't really have time to prepare. The sirens didn't go off in many cases, and so I think it's upon us to be weather aware, know what days have the potential for severe weather, so that you can kind of be staying tuned to that and kind of make plans accordingly. So I'll try to certainly keep us updated as we move forward, but it looks like we're entering a pretty active pattern for severe weather here coming up.